Don't be ridiculous.
Perfect Strangers is a show about imperfect cousins.
Ooh. Perfect Strangers is an 80s international variant on The Odd Couple.
Oh, Perfect Strangers is about two transplants to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey there, everybody. You know what this is. This is Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. Of course, yeah, you can. You may have guessed we are doing Perfect Strangers, episode 1, entitled Knock Knock. Who's there? Boy, oh boy. Sometimes I long for the ones just called Pilot. I don't know. Special guest co-host is Dr. Muhammad Noor here.
Hello, always a pleasure to be on Fallingtower's Watch the First of Things.
He also politely laughed at my dumb joke. Thank you, Muhammad. Appreciate that. We have a very special guest today. It is Malissa Longo. She's an actress. She makes stuff. She sells stuff. She has a cat perching on her shoulder. She's a cat tree.
Hello. I am part-time cat tree. This is true. Whenever she wants.
She has a witch's brew mug. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The witch is witch. There's also the other. Okay.
Maybe you both are transplants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. So this was 1986. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it said 1986.
Yeah. That's what I wrote.
So we are doing 80s sitcom month. November is 80s sitcom month. So if you'd like us to review an 80s sitcom, that means it started in the 80s. Give us your suggestions in the comments below. Type in WTF. In this case, it would have been WTF Perfect Strangers. And you would have said, parenthetically, Amazon Prime. You got to let us know where we can find it. So that way we can watch it, maybe. All right.
There's a lot that are hard to find, too. So please do that.
Yeah. The 80s ones? Definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes Hulu has one or two. This one, Amazon's got a couple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, we checked Joni Loves Chachi and it's not available.
They're scattered.
Wow.
Yeah, divided. That would have been an 80s one.
Leaderless.
What about Who's the Boss?
Hulu's the boss. I think we did check.
Who's the boss?
Oh. Scattered, divided, leaderless. That was a Lord of the Rings quote. Everybody knows. All right. Let's talk about this show. Please give this video a like. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're listening in, give us 5 stars or don't give us anything at all. But please 5 stars. And a nice review would be great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it, shall we? Because we got a lot to talk about, I'll just bet. It's 80s sitcom week, month, and week.
And Dave.
Can't get any better than this. All right. So, Muhammad, let's start off. You know what to do.
I think we're in a predicament.
Whoa.
Yeah, we like to compare and contrast. Sorry, no. We like to predict. Sorry, I'm half asleep today, everybody. Secrets out.
Getting ahead. It's all good.
Yeah. Muhammad and I have known each other for a few years. Malissa and I have known each other for a grip of years, which is longer than a few. And Malissa and Muhammad, what are you guys, maybe 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, a little bit longer than you. I've known Malissa a little bit longer than I've known you, right?
Oh, okay. So maybe, okay. Not longer than Malissa and I have known each other, but longer than you and I have known.
Correct.
Yeah.
What a puzzle. So we like to predict.
Dan sits next to Nancy, but Nancy cannot sit next to Jake.
Okay, so we like to predict if the other person liked it based on our knowledge of the person, or sometimes just on intuition and guesses if we don't know the person very much at all. In this case, I predict that Muhammad did like this show. I think that he felt like it was an easy show. It was kind of funny. It was not too wacky or weird. I think he's going to be medium warm on it, 6 or 7-ish. Melissa, I think, actually may have liked it even more. She's definitely a Giggleheimer. And so, pause for verification. Thank you. Great. So I think that she's a little bit higher than Muhammad and thought that it was funny. And she thought Balki was pretty darn funny. And Larry was a little funny in his own right. But Muhammad, what are your predictions?
That's a great question. So Ryan, I think you like that this laid out the origin story, because I know you've often said that on various shows. You don't, it's not a, what do you call it, the third episode pilot where it's just diving in. There actually is a build there. Like there's the intro sequence, which gives a little bit, and then it clearly is a first episode, which establishes the story, establishes what's going to happen. And you have a pretty idea what to predict from there. I think those aspects you'll find positive. I think the humor you're going to find a little bit like, meh. So my guess is you're going to come in the fives, I think. That's what I would think. Melissa, I think you're going to come in a little bit warmer than Ryan. I think you're going to agree with all the points I just said, but I think you're going to be a little bit more like, but it was funny, it was enjoyable. So I think you're going to come in a little bit above that, maybe in the sixes.
Melissa, what do you think? What are your predictions?
I'm going to I'm going to go. I'm feeling pretty positive today. So I'm going to project that positivity onto both of you. Muhammad, I do think probably liked the show. You might have had some questions here and there, some nitpicks. But overall, I think you're going to be pretty positive about the show. Ryan, for all of the reasons Muhammad said, all the characters were laid out, and the introduction was pretty solid. And it's a quick and easy watch, as Ryan mentioned. So yeah, I think you're gonna like it too.
Oh, that's a good point from you, Melissa, too. If it was a 45-minute episode, I'd say like Ryan's score would go down by 2.
I'd be like, screw these guys. Don't give me a 45-minute comedy unless I get a free Dr. Pepper and popcorn with it. Black licorice. All right, so everybody at home, make your predictions now. Do you think I liked it? Do you think Melissa P. Longo liked it? Do you think Dr. P. Nor liked it? Make your predictions. And right now you're thinking, well, I can't type that fast. I have a bird on my shoulder, or I have a lizard on my lap, or whatever, or I've got a newspaper, right? Like Melissa here. Don't worry. You got plenty of time. Make your predictions. While you're typing that in, Muhammad's going to buy you a little bit of time by telling us all what this show is even about.
I will indeed. So Larry Appleton moves from Wisconsin to Chicago and gets a bachelor pad and a job at a discount store. But his world turns upside down when distant cousin and sheep herder Balki shows up from the island nation of Mipos. Balki is blown away by the amenities and eager to live in America. But things go awry when Balki accidentally causes Larry's store to make some bad sales. Does Larry get fired? Don't be ridiculous.
Melissa, you didn't know that Muhammad was actually born and raised in Mipos. I knew that. He's a ringer. Anyway, let's move forward. I hope that bought everybody enough time here. What's next, Muhammad? I'm sleepy.
Well, so now we have to compare what we expected from what we got in something I like to call expectation.
Muhammad likes to call it that because it brings the violence out in him.
It does.
It's always looking for an excuse to get rowdy, this guy. All right. So yes, we compare and contrast what we expected versus what we got. Muhammad, before you watch this first episode of Perfect Strangers entitled Knock Knock, Who's There? What did you expect, if anything?
Good question. So I did watch this show sometimes. And it wasn't like a show I'd follow regularly. It was a show I watched sometimes back when it was first on. Probably not the first season, but maybe in a couple. I saw online there were 8 seasons of it. I'm sure sometime in there I would click it on. I would watch it periodically. So now, I haven't seen it since it was there. I've not any time since it came off the air. There was no time where I actually went to go find this show, so I didn't remember the details. But I remember the general things. I remember the character of Balky. I remember he came from someplace else, and that he was kind of ridiculous in some ways. And I remember the other one was more the straight character. But beyond that, all the details were just gone. I didn't remember any of those things. Even as I started watching, I didn't remember. Like, oh.
What about you, Melissa? What did you expect before you watched this first episode, if anything?
Well, when you said Perfect Strangers, I was like, yes, I haven't seen this show in years, not since I was a wee mini Melissa. Yeah, and I remember enjoying it as a kid. So I was expecting to, well, I was hoping to enjoy it as much as I did when I was little. And we'll find out if I did.
Yep. Similarly, my thoughts are these. I do remember this show. And when I was a kid, I do remember as a child liking this show and thinking that Balky is funny. Now, I don't remember if I saw 5 episodes or 50. I don't know, but I knew enough to know Balky Bartokomous. I still remembered his full name. And I still remembered Larry Appleton because of the way Balky pronounced it. Larry Appleton, right?
Wow.
So I knew those 2 characters' first and last names.
Yeah.
And I remember them, I think, having like 2 ladies, but I don't remember again if I saw it at the first season or the 8th, apparently. But I remember there being like 2 ladies, like 2 girlfriends, for like double dates and for like hijinks and lying to them or whatever the fight of the day was. I didn't remember the store owner guy, but that's what I remembered. I remembered Meepos. I actually remembered Meepos and how it was pronounced. And I remember thinking that it was probably somewhere, around Albania, that it was some kind of a
like Crete or Cyprus or one of those things.
Yeah, one of those Balkan places, right? I thought it was a Balkan place. I didn't remember it being an island until they just said it in this episode. So I remember thinking it was like Balkan somewhere. Anyway, close. So that's what I expected. I expected that it was a show that I might enjoy, might have some nostalgia, might remember a lot of it. But that's what we expected. What did you actually get, Mohammed, upon viewing this?
You guys remember so much more than me. I didn't remember any of that. I mean, I remembered Balky. That was about it.
I remembered all of those things too.
Wow.
Those names stuck with me.
Wow.
Hassan Larry Appleton.
Yeah, I was 15 when this first started, and I must not have watched so many episodes. I might have been more sporadic. Okay, that was kind of my reaction watching it. It was fun just seeing all the pieces to it, which I like I said, I didn't really remember them. Like, oh yeah, this theme song, I kind of remember that. It was a little more slapstick than I thought it would be, which I mean, probably I should have probably guessed that, but it was a little bit more of that than I thought it would be. But it was okay. I mean, it was interesting hearing the whole connection to Meepos and how he ended up over here, because again, I didn't remember any of those details. I thought it set up what was going to be the general theme pretty well, or at least what I assume is going to be general themes again. Larry, actually, I have to say, kudos. I know that Balky gets a lot of attention, but Larry, I mean, his facial expressions and things like that, I thought those were really good. I was like, okay, this is quite strong. It was interesting how few characters we were introduced to in this show. I mean, I usually write the characters on the side, and there were 4, right? It was Larry, Balky, Susan for like a second, and Mr. Twinkassetti. That was pretty much it, aside from the people who were clearly one-offs. So that made it straightforward and simple. I was waiting for a little bit more of a surprise in terms of back. Like I thought, well, I know we're getting into plot here, but I thought that he was actually going to end up like truly fixing the radio as opposed to just being like, oh, I hooked it up to something else to make it work. So I was waiting for more of a big surprise of like why Larry would really want Balky there. I did find the whole Twinkie City actually wanting to keep them in the store very unrealistic. Like what, why? So that brought it down a little bit for me. But yeah, overall it was fine. There was like you said before, there was a little bit of nostalgia. There was a reasonable setup. There was a lot of slapstick humor. So
wow, lots to cover a little later. Right now, I can tell that everybody that's watching, they are up in arms. They're like, "How dare you? You don't understand." But Melissa, what did you actually get upon viewing this first episode of Perfect Strangers?
I found it very enjoyable and easy to watch. It was easy to watch. There's for several reasons that I think we probably will go into a little bit later on. I did have some of the hesitations about the store owner. He was probably the most unrealistic part of the show. But as far as setting up relationship and between Balky and Larry, I think they did a good job of kicking that off immediately. And I think they have a great chemistry together. And yeah, and the opening theme song brought back so many memories. I was like, oh my gosh. Then I ended up singing it the rest of the night. I was just like, wow, I remember this. I love that theme song. I love it.
How does it go again?
It's catchy. Standing tall. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Huh?
How does it go again?
Standing tall on the wings of my dreams, rise and fall. Yeah, it was
on the
cute.
wings of my dreams. That is cute lyrics. That's nice. All right, well, I'll tell you guys what I got. Again, similarly to Muhammad, it was okay. It's embarrassing what passed for television back in the day, isn't it? Jesus, guys. Like, come on, guys. Like, I feel like television has made leaps and bounds of improvements in the last decades, whereas movies were written well, have always been written well throughout. I mean, some things have improved and changed, but TV is really, really improved. It was okay. I too noticed at the end, I was like, wow, they really got away with basically introducing two characters, a third kind of guy, and a lady that got like 2 sentences and not even a great scene, by the way. But
I didn't love that scene.
Yeah, it was okay though. Like there were some good and some bad. There was nothing that was really, really bad, and there was nothing that was really, really good for me. But let's just get into it. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the biggest thing that jumped out at me. Well, first of all, yes, Muhammad, that theme song did it for me. Less about the music. The music was nice. It was cute, but it told us the whole darn story. It was charming. It was fun. Larry leaves his family and they're like super 80s. I put in my notes, hella 80s.
Funny.
There's a girl wearing a freaking headband to say goodbye to her brother or whatever. Like, who wears a headband?
Yeah.
The number of people saying goodbye to Larry, I was like, man, like what happened to this neighborhood?
But he does have 8 brothers and sisters.
Right, that's what he said. Yeah,
true.
And then he left in a cool ass Mustang. I was like, yeah, Laddie Appleton is got a cool Mustang with like a 69 or 70, I don't know. And then Balky leaves the sheep people, and then they arrive in Chicago. And I put in all capital letters after that theme song. I said, we already know everything. This is great. We've already seen the first episode, basically. I don't know. What do you guys think about the theme imagery.
I thought
I
that was
liked
great.
it.
Yeah.
I liked how it set up the whole story of how they came to Chicago. Very easy and, straightforward.
One question I had about it, maybe this is getting way too in the weeds. I was thinking, like, who would move from Wisconsin to Chicago to work like retail?
Yeah, because he wanted to be a photojournalist, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I moved to New York and ended up working retail because I'm an actor. So,
Okay.
that's
However,
entry
acting,
level.
pursuing acting generally takes you to New York or LA. Pursuing taking pictures, necessarily is Chicago more picturesque than Madison? Maybe.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe it's an easier commute though from where he was, because Wisconsin isn't that far from Chicago.
it's true. It should be from Milwaukee. It could be like 90 minutes or so. I mean, mostly it wasn't just that, but it didn't seem like there was an obvious thing. It wasn't like I want to be in Chicago because maybe it comes out later, but because I want to be next to X headquarters. I mean, it was just kind of like I'm going to be in Chicago. Like, okay, maybe
That's
I guess
probably
there's more opportunities there. I guess, but it didn't seem like there was an obvious target. But again, maybe just one episode. So who knows? Maybe that comes out later.
That's probably what it was that like, the headquarters of the big newspaper that he wants to pursue. We might find that
Tribune.
out later. Hopefully something like that. But the big thing that I noticed was Balky was way less funny than I remember him being. In fact, I found him to be unfunny. I was like, how long is he going to continue this fake ass, forced ass accent? Like, just let him talk. This is terrible. Like, it felt like within like 5 or 10 minutes, I was like, oh man, I am not going to be able to sit through this accent. This is so fake and obnoxious and clearly not the way he actually talks. And what I found to be cute and funny as a kid, I found to be kind of annoying as an adult kid. Melissa's like, you are so wrong right now.
I was waiting for Melissa's response to that.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of disagree. I mean, I know that his accent was fake, but I'm also viewing the show as a sitcom in the 80s where everything was a little bit over the top and a bit more is melodramatic the right word. Yes, TV has changed immensely over the years, which is why actors would often be ashamed to have worked on television as opposed to in movies. There was a stigma of, oh, you're a TV actor, way back in the 80s. Not so much anymore because television has grown so much in leaps and bounds of doing. Sometimes TV nowadays is better than what's in the movies. It's kind of done a reversal in a sense in the quality of the product that's being put out there. So I took it for what it was. It was made in the 80s and everything was slapstick. There's many things in this episodes that wouldn't fly now, as far as Balky even being a character, because he's a caricature of a foreigner coming into America, and it could be seen as appropriation or some sort of thing that wouldn't be so PC nowadays. So exactly. So I took it with a grain of salt because it was made in the 80s when things were different, times were different. And so I didn't find him as annoying as Ryan might have.
Do you guys think that the island was a Greek island? I felt like it had to be.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Yeah,
that's what that's what it felt like.
The accent didn't bother me as much for the reason Melissa said. But I mean, what bugged me was some of the extreme slapstick, like especially the scene with Susan there. I was like, okay, this is played out. I was tired of this. Like, this can be done now.
Yeah. Well, and that's another part of it. It's like, yeah.
He said he wanted to be like her sex slave, or
yeah.
He said,
I don't think
one
he said
thing
sex,
that was
but I think he just
one
said slave.
thing. That's what I heard. One thing that was moderately funny in that scene, which I didn't think was funny, the scene in general, but when he said, "I want to worship your painted toenails," like, okay, that's a cute detail. Like in comedy, you want to have details. Yeah. That's what makes it funny, and that was funny. The rest of it was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah,
we get it. Yeah. He likes her, and Larry just thought it was funny. Like, oh, hey, that's what I'd be like, dude, relax. And then
exactly.
The lady, what was her name? Susan. She was like, "Oh,
yeah." That was
most ladies would be like,
ridiculous.
I'll come back over.
You're creepy
when your roommate is kicked out. Thank you. I'm not going to hold this against you, buddy, but invite me over once he's gone. Thanks.
Right. He's creepy. And then Larry could have been like, well, he's not from around here.
Insane.
So related to that, and so I also relate to my earlier comment too, it's interesting that, again, maybe this is an era difference where Larry told Balky, you can stay a couple of days until you get a job.
I very much know
what?
Yeah. First of all, you might be able to get a job in a couple of days. Sure, that's entirely possible. Not 100%, certainty, not by any stretch. But you certainly wouldn't have enough money to get your own place in 2 days by working. You might get a job in 2 days, and they'll be like, okay, you start next week. And you'd be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
That means I'm not going to get paid for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and another unrealistic thing is that he left Balky in the store alone.
Oh, yeah.
To watch the store. He doesn't really know the language. He doesn't know the customs. He probably is not good with the monetary differences of Mypos and the United States of America. And then to go help Susan with a mouse. I mean, come on. That's another, again, it was made in the 80s. So
I think that was perfectly fine. It could have been a dude asking. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, if a friend is panicking about some irrational fear, go help them.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, but you're the only one in the store, and it's a mouse.
Yeah, but some people, you and I might say it's a mouse. What's the big deal? But some people might freak out about a mouse. People do have these kinds of fears and whatever. So, I mean, I try not. Some people freak out about a spider. Okay, not to call anybody out, but I used to know somebody that used to invite me into his room to catch a spider for him as a child, and the only person that could have been as a child was my brother. Sorry, brother, I just called you.
Yes, but are you?
But it was, and I would just grab it and throw it outside.
The thing that helps you keep a roof over your head and and then leave this perfect stranger in charge of this store that is your only source of income at the moment.
No, I would certainly try to figure out a third option, but I'm just saying, I understand the motivation of wanting to go help a friend in time of need, even if to you or I, their distress is unwarranted, like that, that's all I'm saying is, even if I think, who cares, it's a mouse, that's actually cute and you're lucky and you should name him and try to keep him and cuddle with it, doesn't mean that I don't understand if somebody else, freaks out about it.
But they did make it seem like, it's the woman who's afraid of the mouse. Mm-hmm. And this is
into the stereotype.
Exactly. That was the point.
Now, I know we were picking out some things we didn't like. There were some lines that I thought were especially funny. So I made a couple of notes of some. I'll toss out a couple of them. One of the ones was the comment about, like, so related by rumor.
Yeah.
That was a good line. The comment about America, home of the Whopper. Like, that's definitely dated now, but still good. And then near the end, am I in debt? I'm a true American.
Solid. That was a solid joke. Yes. He's like, he's been here for 1 day and he's already, $100 in debt. Although I will say, before I get into the lines that I thought were funny, if any,
Oh, actually, I can tell you minimum wage then was $3.35 because I remember I had a job that year.
In Chicago, though, it differs.
I don't know. I mean, that was the national minimum wage. It was $3.35 an hour.
Yeah.
So,
Remember days like
one fact check here, guys. If you've ever played Scrabble, you know that Meepos would not work because it is a proper name, you guys.
Yeah.
You don't get to play Meep. He's like, no, it's a real word. And her response should have been like, bro, how long you been playing Scrabble? Otherwise, I'm just going to start putting Larry as my answer or my cat's name or whatever. You know, because then you could just make up any old shit and be like, it's probably an island. The Greeks have like 1,000 islands. Put something out there. Anyway, so shame on you guys. I do have a couple things I thought were funny. When that was actually funny. Towards the end, when they lost $1,000 for the radio or whatever it was, which I thought was funny already. I'm like, you're saying that radio was worth $1,000? Okay. I mean, whatever.
$1,000 of equipment for $500.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it
Larry
came with
goes,
the stereo and the amplifier and
still
the speakers.
But that's what it was in the 80s. So Larry goes, I hope you're happy. And Balky goes, thank you. I hope you're happy too. I'm like, okay, I like that. Down too. I do like that kind of humor. That's funny to me. And I did like the way Twinkasetti. I just put him as Twink for short in my notes because that's too long. I like the nicknames he was calling him. He called him Turnip, and then before that he called him Grape Leaf, which I thought was actually funny. Pretty funny because that sounds like a Greek kind of thing, like a great like these are very clever nicknames or insults because they're rather harmless, but they're also like, you know, a little topical to a little relevant.
No, they're delicious. Stuffed
grape leaves. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My mom makes the best dolmades.
Oh, really?
Yum.
What about you, Melissa? Do you have some favorite lines?
I liked, you have pink lemons. I liked that. And you already said the Whopper one. And the debt one, I felt to my core. Oh. I'm a true American. Yeah, dude, same.
Yeah, that's all I got. Just those couple things. Okay, can I just point out?
There was one. I had one more though. I like that story at the end. That was Twinkasetti said that when there was some. I didn't write down what had just happened, but there was some long story that Balky said.
Yes,
and he's like, I like that story.
Oh yeah,
which was kind of an unexpected thing. Yeah,
which was weird because it seemed like that character kind of just changed mid-episode. Suddenly he was like, he didn't care about the loss of money. He was chill. He was forgiving. He just like they set up this character to be a very clear type that we get and we understand. And then they just kind of like flipped him into something different because that's what the story. They're like, we only got 2 minutes left. We gotta wrap this up real quick. Okay, how about he just says, hey, what's the big deal? Let's all be friends now. But and then he just takes it upon himself to take out $10 a week. Like that's A, legal, and B, they agreed to it. They didn't agree to that. Shouldn't you wait until they say, okay, you got a deal?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I will say
it might be legal if he's, I don't know, but at the same time, I don't know. There's so many questions about that. Never mind. Go ahead.
I just want to touch on something Muhammad said at the very beginning before I forget. Of course I do. Don't be ridiculous, right? Okay, 5 times in one episode. That's ridiculous.
I was thinking that too.
Once, maybe twice to establish that as his saying.
3 times is the comedy rule.
Yeah, so. And I do remember that being his shtick, his catchphrase, right? But I'm saying like you don't even need to say it more than once because you can say it in the next episode and the next episode and the next episode, and then we'll get it because it was funny the first time. So we don't even need the repetition to make it funny. It was funny the first time, and then give it to us. Like if Michelle on Full House said, "You got it, dude," 5 times in one episode, we'd be like, dude, no, I don't want to get it anymore. It was cute the first time. Tell me again, in a couple episodes. But anyway, I just thought, it's like,
I was surprised how many times that he used that line in this episode. Because I remember it being his catchphrase, and going around saying that to you when I was a kid. Of course, I knew, don't be ridiculous. and it was fun. And then, Cousin Larry Appleton is a fun line too. Is one of my favorite lines as well. Probably because of nostalgia, but it's fun to say as well. But yeah, I was thinking 5 times in one episode. They're kind of beating a dead horse right now. Yeah.
Muhammad, you disagree?
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. I do like the suspenders.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Melissa.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that you didn't like that the girl was the one calling over the dude for the mouse, was there anything you did not like about this show that you're raving about?
No, I think, as I mentioned before, I think there's some unrealistic aspects of it, especially involving the store. The energy kind of dropped for me when they went to the store of the show, just because it all felt very contrived. I mean, the whole show is contrived, but that felt particularly contrived. It didn't feel honest to me much at all, except for when he's dancing and he's saying, "What's love got to do with it?" with his feather duster. That was my favorite part in the store. Him wiggling his butt and and going, "What's love got to do?" But yeah, Twinkasetti didn't do much for me. He didn't feel like a real person to me. Just because, as mentioned before, there was a lot of inconsistencies in his approach to life and the way he runs his business. So much so that it changed within moments of each other. From firing them and then hiring them again. And yeah, I don't know.
Do you guys think the glass breaking scene went too long? I definitely felt like, what is happening?
Yeah. By the way, that's not a real thing that would happen, because, look, it's possible if you match the frequency of the glass. Now, Muhammad, correct me if I'm wrong. You match the frequency of the glass, you amplify it, that's going to shatter it. Okay, right. Fine. So that, people could say, well, that does happen. It's science. Right. But what are the chances that everything in the entire store, all of the glass has the exact same frequency? That's not a thing, right?
I think
can't imagine.
And it would have been so loud that they wouldn't be able to hear anything anymore. I mean, people at concerts have louder music and you don't see their beer bottles breaking.
Plus, I think that it would need to be one long, consistent sound matching that frequency, not just amplification of a song. Yeah, that's
literally radio too. Like,
that's not how it works. But I will add to one more good thing at the beginning, which was the fact that the theme song gave us the full intro. It was like the theme song was almost the pilot for us, or at least the first scene, really knocked all that out very quickly and easily so that the story started within 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, Balki shows up at the door. So I thought that was great that it's like, cut the fat, just get right to the point where they meet and go from there. Because if they had like the first episode be Balki and his travels and doing this and that, and then Larry moving in, that would be more like a true pilot where they're introducing both their stories, but they're like, let's knock it out in the theme song and then just cut right there at the beginning. So I thought that was really good. I was happy that they did that.
Oh, I love that. I love the intro. I love the intro, and it got me ready to watch the show. And I only harked on the negative because that was the question asked to me.
I have another question too for you guys. Were you surprised that Larry's father sent Balky to Larry? It wasn't clear to me, like, why would you send him there?
And
like,
then when he called him,
he's doing retail in a really expensive place and doesn't have resources. Like,
and then Larry said that, he must have just called when I was out. How do you? Your dad doesn't leave you, a voicemail or a, or a answering machine message saying like, by the way, I sent a cousin your way. He's freaking weird and he wants to sleep in your home.
Maybe it's because he's had 9 children under his roof for how many years, and he's finally got rid of one. So maybe he's like, well, now that I've gotten rid of one, I'm not going to take in another and go live with Larry.
That's a good point. Maybe his brain is so frazzled from all these kids that he's like, he's over there. I'll call Larry and tell him. And then he just forgets because there's other kids writing on the wall. There's some kid puking on his pants. Like, he's just like, I don't remember. What was I doing? I don't know. So maybe he just didn't call.
And it's one less mouth to feed. And now you want to bring that mouth back.
A new mouth.
A new mouth.
But he can tend sheep.
He can. But yeah.
Oh, that was actually a funny line. I don't know if I put it in my notes, but it did make me laugh, which was when Larry told Balky, you've got a job, until an untended flock of sheep shows up or something like that. Funny. I was like, okay, that's clever. I like that. I thought I put that in my notes, but anyway, that's what the line was. And that gets points for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of points, it's time for Malissa Longo to make some points about herself in a little segment we call Let's Talk About Malissa.
Okay.
We should have like some dancing elves that are like, let's talk about Malissa. Do, 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 do. Something like that. And then she pops up. Okay. So you've got a new home for all of your wares. Can you tell us about it, Malissa Longo?
Yes. Walking Art, made by Malissa, has a new home. It's at the introvertedrepublic.com. It's an online store. And I am the first artist, hopefully of many, to be represented in this store. And I am partnering with the wonderful Quan King, who is the spearhead of the Introverted Republic.
CEO.
She's the one who came up with the idea. And hey, I have that too.
Oh, let's show the audience what we're holding up here. These are our Lambda Quadrant beverage vessels. I've got a perp, and Melissa's got a pink, and we love the Lambda Quadrant. Ooh. Props, guys. They're probably not watching, but they should be.
No, they should watch. But so yes, and it's still grassroots. It's still we're still working out a lot of kinks. There's a lot of kinks that one wouldn't expect.
Not the band, though.
No.
Good knowledge, Mohammed. Very good knowledge.
And but it's good, and we've got some collections up under the Walking Art page, and as well as the Introverted Republic, who has its own products up as well.
So, Melissa, a lot of your wares are well known from various conventions where you sell them, and from your previous site and things like that. Can you tell us what are some of the specific ones you have, either Star Trek related or not, that are already on Introverted Republic?
Yeah. Well, the silhouette line is inspired by all things Trek, characters from Trek, and it's basically silhouettes of different characters, and I have like a word or a catchphrase that kind of is associated with a specific character, like make it so it's a silhouette
or like
of,
don't be ridiculous.
oh, don't be ridiculous would be my new Balky shirt. And then another collection is the Dancing Goddess series, where they're just these alien dancers who are I drew originally with ballpoint pen, and had been figuring out how to get them on a shirt or anything for a really long time, because there's a lot of shading and stuff in there.
They have kind of a thready, feathery sort of feel to those.
Yeah. They're a little bit more intricate than just the silhouettes. So yeah. So those are there's a collection of those on there as well. And I don't know what is amusing Ryan so much right now.
I'm just listening to your stories and enjoying them right now.
Yeah.
You've also had some recent acting gigs too. I don't know if there are ones you're allowed to talk about, but we'd love to hear any that you can.
Well, yeah, yes. This year I have delved back more concentrated into acting, hopefully, knock on wood. It continues to go, keep going forward, but I've gotten a lot of background gigs recently, which is great, and they've been fun. It's been great to be back on set again, and yeah, so hopefully that keeps going and keeps building. And there are two people who have asked me to be part of their productions as lead, as principal parts. So, and we'll see how that goes. You know, film business is tricky too, because there's a lot of different working parts that go into making something. So, you know,
I'm assuming the lead ones are confidential for now, but are any of the background ones you can tell us about, or are they all still confidential?
The background ones are probably more confidential than the lead ones. She's got a very soft behind. The one is Glass Stars. It's written by Kat King, and she's done a full rewrite of her script, her original script, which was good before, but now it's really good. And she's definitely fleshed out some of the character development, and she's gotten some tips from some kind of big people in the industry that have been helping her out. So hopefully, I'm hoping for her, because she's worked so hard on it and has done so well with the script in different festivals, screenwriting festivals. She's done really well with it, and I hope, for at least for her sake, that she gets it off the ground, whether or not I'm still a part of it. I hope that I am, because I love the part that she has bestowed upon me. But yeah, I'm hoping for success for her. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of getting off the ground, it is time to get Muhammad's karate chop off the ground and into center stage. That karate chop means it's time for the Terrible Twos, and no other name.
Bottom line, the only name. Uncle Melissa Rosenberg said so.
Oh, that's true. Okay. All right. Melissa doesn't have to break the tie. Mike already did. All right. So it's the final two. I know. Muhammad bullies me.
I was going to say the bottom two, because it's a mix of the both.
The top and the bottom two.
Yeah.
All right. So it's the final two questions of the show, the two most important questions. Those others were important-ish, but this is the real deal. Question number one is, Dr. Muhammad Noor, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Mipos Island? No, it's Perfect Strangers. Knock, knock. Who's there?
I would give this one a 6. It was okay. I mean, there were a couple of times I was looking at my watch towards the end. It was I love the intro sequences we discussed. I thought it had a good origin story. It was a good plot, but it was just a little not exciting. I mean, there were funny moments, but a lot of it where it's like, yeah, okay, this is very heavily slapstick and or very heavily predictable. I think Melissa's points are well taken that, at the time, like if I was to rate this in 1986, I'd probably give it a much higher score, but I'm not there now. So
what about you, Malissa Longo? Are you there now?
I don't know if I'm there now, but I would give it 6.8. Just because I really love the intro. I did like the opening scenes where Balky and Larry are meeting for the first time. I do like the chemistry between Balky and Larry. I think that there is potential for real growth and attachment for each other, real friendship. And yeah, like I said, the stuff in the store kind of made things drop for me, but not explode like the glass.
Like the glass, I like that.
I needed a science consultant.
Yes. So, but overall, I enjoyed I enjoyed it. So a 6.8. Yeah, because the stuff with Susan didn't really fly with me either. It felt a little stiff.
I didn't. Yeah, I hated the scene with Susan. Oh.
Yeah. And I do like Balky for what he is and for the time, but I really like Larry because he's the one who has to keep things together when everyone else gets to be wacky and out of control, and it's difficult to be the straight man, so, and I think he did well with that.
He did very well. I agree.
Tell me about it. I have to play the straight man to Muhammad's always wacky character stuff.
Did you guys know? It doesn't show up here. But there's a headline I found because I thought I remember this. This Perfect Strangers, Robin Thede and London Hughes to lead the reboot of the 80s comedy in the works at HBO Max.
Mm-hmm. I could have guessed that. Like every 80s sitcom and 90s sitcom is being rebooted now. And you know what? I'm glad, because I'll check out each one of them for a second, and most of them won't be good, and I don't have to waste my time on them. But what we should do? We should
watch the first.
We should do a sitcom reboot month. Like Full House reboot, Perfect Strangers reboot, whatever.
Yeah.
There are tons of others. That would be fun. Boy, oh boy, I can't
Quantum
wait.
Leap?
Quantum
But
Leap?
that's not a sitcom.
Well, it's not a sitcom. That's true. It's just reboot.
Maybe we could just be straight up reboot month.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Speaking of reboots, I'll tell you what I would give this show. I would give this, I can't believe it lasted 8 seasons. That's incredible.
That was also a show in the 80s.
Yeah, it was. I remember that one. I would give this a 1 times 5. It wasn't that bad.
Okay. That's what I predicted for you. Yay.
Yeah.
Really?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't that. I mean, there were some good parts. There were some bad parts. There were some good aspects, some bad aspects. There was nothing fantastic, and there was nothing terrible. I mean, the science and stuff was terrible, but we don't watch sitcoms for the science. So it's a little eye-rolly, a little giggly, but, we forgive it. So yeah, it's just a straight up 5. I sure wouldn't bash anybody's door down and tell them to watch it, but I also wouldn't bash anybody's door down for watching it.
It's getting into the next question there. Ooh.
It is. Here it comes. Question number 2, deuces, is for the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Perfect Strangers. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode of Perfect Strangers?
Probably not. I mean, I might if somebody said, "Ooh, I love this show," I was like, I guess I'll watch it with you. But like on my own now.
You're such a giver.
I mean, I didn't hate it. I just wouldn't seek it out.
What about you, Melissa? Would you, of your own volition, watch the second?
I would. I would. Well, I accidentally watched it yesterday when I was building stuff, because you know how they have the automatic play. So, and I found that it's great background TV. So you don't have to pay attention so much. So I did watch the second, and I would watch the second because of nostalgic reasons.
Was the second better than the first?
Yeah, I wanted to ask that too.
Yes, it is. It's a little bit more entertaining than the first, although there's some annoying parts in that too. Yeah, I feel like they're still finding their legs, and once they do, that's probably why the second it went 8 seasons. But yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, I would not watch the second episode. It's a pretty easy no for me. I wouldn't hate to watch the second episode, but I certainly would not of my own volition. If somebody were watching it and I were at their place, I would probably watch the television and not be like, "Oh, you better not." I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, see." Especially if it's like season 5, for example, just to kind of see how it's progressed. But anyway, it's a no. Not too bad. Yes.
Although if Amazon played it automatically, is that of my own volition or is that of Amazon's volition? I didn't turn it off.
I'd say it's your own because you could turn it off and you did not. And you enjoyed it, and you sang the song before we started recording, and while we were recording, and all of last night. You said,
"I love that song." This is probably why I would watch the second again, just to hear that song again, and to hear it again and again because I really like the song. I really like
on YouTube. Just pull that up.
That's true too.
That's Amazon's new marketing ploy. They'll be like, "Hey, if you like a theme song, the only way to hear it is by watching the episode." So come.
It's funny. Right before we came on the show, I was like, "Wait, what was the theme song?" I remember I liked it, but I couldn't remember what it was. So I just Googled real quick and came up on Amazon. I played like, "Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember I enjoyed it when I watched it last night, but I just forgot and I kept on thinking about something else.
I really like the opening intro sequence with the song too. I really liked that.
That one on YouTube was a little bit different, so I'm assuming it's from a later season.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering if they go after the first season. Do we have to keep telling them the story? Probably not.
Oh, it still had that. Yeah, it still had the America or Bust and stuff like that. But they had this scene, which I remembered from a later episode with them, like, walking in the wind and barely making it through stuff. Which I was like, oh, I vaguely remember this from later seasons. Going to the Chicago theater together and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we better go, everybody. But no, not at all. This was a great conversation about Perfect Strangers. So everybody, please be sure to give this video a like. Leave us some comments below. What do you think about Perfect Strangers? What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you love it? Did you love it? Now do you hate it? Also make your suggestions. WTF and the next 80s sitcom you'd like us to review, and maybe we'll do it. But make sure you tell us where we can find it. That was a mouthful. All right.
Not Joni Loves Chachi. Can't find it.
Yeah, bummer.
No.
So what I'm trying to say is that this podcast was between imperfect friends.
Oh, I was going to say something very similar. I was going to say this podcast has people who are not strangers. Love you guys.
This podcast just gave me the warm fuzzies because you guys are awesome.
That was a cat.
We love you too.
All right, everybody. Everybody be happy out there. And remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to be an organ donor. And don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, it's time for a freeze frame. And we got to be Mr. Twinkasetti.
cheeky smile and pretend that